Good evening, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. Today, we're going to talk about, we're going to actually go into detail about um, politics and dealing with the Republican Democratic Party and its effects on the African American community. In the vast tapestry of American politics, the interplay between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party has profound implications for the Black community. This podcast episode aims to unravel the multifaceted effects of politics on the lives of Black Americans, exploring various facets of their existence that are deeply intertwined within political decisions. So, what that means is we're definitely we're going to take a little in depth look into both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, the policies that have been made, the policies that go into effect that cause negative effects on the Black communities that are causing so much repression that it's really, really hard for a lot of people to not only find a way of living their lives or living comfortably, but just having the opportunities to make their lives better. And so, what we're going to talk about is not what one party is doing or this party is doing this, but it's the effects of why this is happening. The whole premise. And the whole premise, what you're going to find at the end of this episode, is that this is about race. So there's many of us that have had some lessons or have read some readings that's just dealing with from a historical context as to what's happened in the Black communities. So, but besides that, we need to go a little bit more in depth because what is happening is, when we take steps forward, there are a lot of things that always push us back, and what push us back, or there are people that look like us that do that. There are the repressors themselves. There are people from other areas or communities that are doing this, and there's just many, many things that's come into this conflict that's really all but trying to phase out the Black culture as we know of it today. Now, from a historical backdrop, now we're going to go, when we talk about from slavery to civil rights. Now, let's just talk about a little something like this to get us a little something about this that's going to get us started. Um, Unraveling the historical journey of the Black community from the shackles of slavery to the civil rights movement, setting up the stage for their engagement with political forces. Now, what this is saying, and where we're gonna start here is, um, from being in these shackles and chains, being what was considered property of white people that actually hated Black people for whatever reason they had. There were no reasons because they're the ones that went across the pond and actually brought Africans here to America, which was still land that was not theirs, that they stole, and they are the ones that decided they wanted to have free labor because they were so lazy. They didn't want to do what they wanted to do, so they figured they could get somebody else to do it for them and just make plenty of money for them, which is what has happened. That's what's transpired. So how we got into the political spectrum is that from the founders of back in the day, when they actually wrote um, what they called their legislation, this is prior to them coming up with the Constitution, is they felt like um, the slaves and the women, of course, they had no voice. They were not depicted as in, what a person should be. and they just had no rights. So when you look at the from a political aspect, the way they wanted to have things done is they just wanted to have these slaves just doing all of this labor. They were afraid for them to actually learn by reading from a book because they felt like the more knowledge and the more power they had, they didn't know what that outcome could be. So, so what was going on then is, they decided that, you know, um, these folks that owned the slaves, that they could disgrace the black women. They hated when the woman, the black woman, married the black man because they didn't allow them to get married because they wanted to continue to breed these women in order for them to have more children that could be more labor for them. So when it got to the time where they decided they wanted to do the Constitution, write up the Constitution, which was right at the time, that things were like being tilted. When they decided they wanted to write the Constitution, they wrote inside the Constitution that a black man or black people in general were a fifth of a person. Now, being a fifth of a person, I wonder how do you calculate that? But also, it is known that if you have a drop of black blood in you, you're all black. Now, this sounds just like what it is, which is hatred. But with this hatred, came an enormous amount of negative things that was affecting people in ways that, no one ever could understand why this was happening. These people just wanted to be free and go back home. Everybody wanted to live their lives, but the low class people that owned slaves, they decided that they could capitalize more and more off this labor. Now, the reason why I'm going back from slavery to civil rights is because, basically, when you hear this from the 18th century, and we're now in the 21st century, you pretty much have the same thing that's happening, but it's happening at a much more high pressured, more intense situation. So what's happening now is that the killings now take place out in the open. But when we talk about the political part of what's dealing with black people, is that everything that's included in any bill that's written is always excluding the black Americans. They're always excluded. Now, what makes this more something that kind of like, I don't know, it's really painful, especially when you talk about it, and for those that have to hear this, is that politics today and the people that are representing each and every state that's up on Capitol Hill, none of these people have the slightest inkling as to why or what to do to make lives easier and comfortable for black Americans. And the reason being is because to do one thing means you have to do all, because they're still the benefactors of labor from the 18th century to now, to where they're creating dynasties, but then still trying to find a way to phase the black community out. Now, some of us have, well, when we all look at politics, and most of us are into politics, I will say that. But in the process of being into politics, I mean, when you say you're going to represent your community or represent the people that you're supposed to be representing, then that means that everything that you do for one, you should do for the other. Well, that doesn't happen for the black community. We're the ones that are still terrorized by the terrorists right here in this country, which are domestic. Domestic terrorism is live and well and is running full force and rampant right now because the killing of people is still just too much to take. So, as we come past, from slavery to civil rights, and we talk about the era of Reconstruction, I want you to remember to when it's mentioned that examining the aftermath of the Civil War and Reconstruction era, highlighting the seeds of political influence sown during this critical period. Now, remember the Civil War came about because we're talking about Lincoln and the North said, "Let's free the slaves." The South said, "No, we need that labor, and they're never going to be free." So having a civil war, having the Union soldiers fight the Confederate soldiers, was the ugliest thing that this country probably ever had faced in its time frame. So in a process of that, the only thing that changed about that time was that, okay, the Emancipation Proclamation comes about and it frees the slaves, so it's a kind of sorta because they weren't really free. And then you had the other part of Lincoln's doctrine, the Magna Carta. All of these things going into effect that still we have problems in our community where people still weren't sure what their lives were going to be about. So as they create these, as they get their opportunity to do the Constitution, they get the opportunity to say this is what the country is supposed to be about, and the country at this point was to be uh, supposed to be in a preventive phase of not allowing tyrants or a king to come over and influence the country in any way. Well, the violence was still just as horrible because black people were still being killed, land was still being taken away from most of them, and some people just really just didn't know how to handle things when it came to this entire this uprising of all of this madness that's still taking place. So just even after Reconstruction and everything that was done from a social perspective for the people, it still excluded it still excluded black people. Now, again, I know most of us know this, but in the process of knowing this, why we're not doing anything to make it better for ourselves or for our people in general? Because this is only getting worse. And just as a reminder, I mean, I'm just speaking from my heart because I decided I wanted to just say a little bit more to people in general that you know this violence and all of these things that are taking place right now. Why is this still happening? And it's happening for no reason. Not everybody, um, are criminals, violent criminals, and not everybody is, running around here just doing, just doing civil unrest just because. But the way it's looked at is that black people are just a problem, and we just want to do just do. Um, just to get through these two things that I just mentioned is that when we talk about legislation that's being written, again, there's no legislation that's being written to actually uh, to add ease and make things that much easier for the suffrage of Black people. And I say the right word. It is suffrage because the suffrage is still continuing. And as it's continuing, there is not one place or not one person, that's up on Capitol Hill that is actually going to make the legislation the way it's supposed to be. So let's talk about the two sides. You got the Republican Party and you got the Democratic Party. Okay, this just does not make sense. And what does not make sense is you have the Republican Party that's continuously expressing the way it feels about any person that's non-white. They're writing legislation that is going to be on a continuum to weed out those that are non-white. Now, the thing that makes this so strange to me is they're in the minority and the Democratic Party is in the majority, but the Democrats are going right along with the Republicans. They're not doing what they're supposed to do either. And then they want to get on TV and they want to make people think that they're doing everything in the world to make your life better when they're really not. I'm still waiting for us to actually create our own party though, because when I think about these latest bills that have just been passed in the Congress, I mean, it's just like, how are you passing bills to send money to places like Ukraine, where it's known that there's corruption and that there's misallocated monies for all these trillions of dollars that's being sent over to Ukraine? Ukraine is another country that's just like Russia. They don't have a care about Black folk either. Look how they mistreated them before this war started. I hate to see people getting killed, but at the same time, how is that making my life easier? And I wish somebody could tell me. It's the same thing with this war with I'm not sure exactly who the war is with, actually, with Israel, Hamas, and Palestine. I mean, what is that about? Why are my tax dollars going into these places that are abroad, but the assistance and the help that I need here in this country, I can't even get that help? And I'm more than sure that all of you out there that are listening to this, you know that it's the same thing that's with you. You cannot get the assistance that you need because your tax dollars, just like mine, is being sent abroad to folk that don't care about you either, but their lives are being made so much easier and so much better. Now, if we could just be left alone and we could just do what we need to do by building not only just our communities, but building our businesses and living our lives and be free flowed, everything will be totally great for Black people and the Black communities. But that's good. That's disallowed because those that you've been patronizing with your money all this time, they need your money and they're going to get your money one way or the other, because other companies that grow off Black dollars are normally have a 50-50 chance of actually staying survival for a long time, because the majority of them are actually folding and have folded. And that's because there was not enough Black dollars to go to other companies or other people that say you're supposed to spend your dollars with them, but they hate you. I'm talking about the modern political landscape. The Republican Party and Black conservatism. Analyzing the historical connection between the Republican Party and Black conservatism, evaluating its impact on the community. What that means is, in the beginning, people said that people like Martin Luther King, and other prominent black folk were Republican, and that Republicans have always stood for black people. Now, one thing I think they can get some credit for is having the opportunity to help in the easement of black people to vote in the beginning. Now, that is true. That is truly something that the Republican Party did. But it flipped its ugly head on laurels of, when we got to take back what they say. Well, this is the way it's phrased: take back what's mine. And we say take back what's mine. It's like not only parts of the country, but the people that they say they own. Well, when black people say take back my own, there are things that have been taken, but are they going to get them back? I don't think so. Ask O.J. Simpson. He's a good example. How about things that were stolen from him, but when he went to get them, they say he stole those things and they weren't his? Well, you know how that goes. But at any rate, black conservatism, what it's doing is it's actually putting a strain in the black community. And those people that identify as Republican, which is your right, that's fine and dandy. You do what you do. But when you do what you do, it does not allow you the right to try to help folk write more and more repressed legislation against the black community, because not everybody's a conservative. Now, I'll tell you from the beginning, which is what I should have said before, I'm not a Democrat, and I am definitely not a Republican. I do not support either of those parties. When I vote for what's best for me. I vote for what's best for me. Just because somebody is black, I'm not voting for you. Just because you are a Democrat, I'm not voting for you. If you got my interest and there are things that I see that you're talking about, you want to do your agenda, then yeah, you get my vote. But if you don't, if you're not talking about what actually is going to help me, then no, I'm not going to vote for you. This is the thought process that I think each and every black American should take. We should not be voting for people that look like us all the time, because what looks good, looks just like you, is not good all the time. Definitely not good. You should not be voting strictly for the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party is not doing what it's supposed to do in order to help the easements and the embetterment of lives for black people. I want you all to remember, and I want you to think about this going into 2024. Right now, nobody wants Donald Trump in. I agree with you 500%, because I wouldn't want him in either. And I'm definitely not going to lend my vote to anybody that's that big of a racist that can say what he says, and what these other folk on that side are saying. They're putting out in the public. They don't care what you think. They're telling you point blank. They don't like you. So why are you voting for them? Why are you voting against your interests? Now, the thing that I will say that I will be doing, and I guess maybe this is the wrong thing to say, but I'm going to cast my vote for Joe Biden this time around, because I can't afford to take a chance on Donald Trump getting in the White House, because if he gets in the White House, there goes the extinction of black folk. Because every law that goes into effect is going to be about repression, 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 repression. And I know you can't tell people who to vote for, but I just hope people know that when you cast your vote, you're voting for the right reason and not the wrong one. The Democratic Party and identity politics. Exploring the dynamics of the Democratic Party's approach to identity politics and its implications for the black community. Those are all lies as well. Because if they had an inkling of thought as to what they were going to do for the black community, then what they would have done is they would have passed the Voting Rights Act. Instead, they waited all this time, and now all these states are passing voter restriction laws. And it's all because right there in the U.S. Congress, Democrats had the majority. They did not pass voting rights. They brought it up one time, and it's died ever since. It has not been back. So if they can't pass voting rights, why am I going to vote for them? Except for this implication of getting Donald Trump, keeping Donald Trump out of the White House. That is the only reason why. That's the only reason why. Besides that, they can't even get everything situated when it comes to student loan debt. That's got more and more of an impact in the black community than you want to believe, because we want a higher education, but in the process of wanting higher education, we going to college and we're taking out these loans. These loans, and they are killing us with the loans and the interest rates. And then are upset when you call them on what's so bad about about the interest and the amounts that you have to pay back. I tell you, it's actually causing so many problems that people have gone back into default again since Biden passed that first thing with the student loan. The socioeconomic impact, economic policies and disparities. Investigating how economic policies shaped by political decisions contribute to socioeconomic disparities within the black community. What that simply means is when we want to build our communities and we work and we pay our taxes and we're supposed to have our communities built up with every single resource that we need. That does not happen. That does not happen. But when you go to white communities, they always call them affluent communities because there's an enormous amount of resources and the resources are overlapping. They're overlapping. So if that's happening and you got this much going on where there's not enough resources coming into our communities, that's more than just disparaging, that's disheartening. Because that means that it's forcing black people to go 30 minutes to an hour outside of where they live to get the things that they need. But when you want to build businesses in the black community, the first thing that pops up is code and also what's building for business and what's not building for business. So you're going to be short, and you're always going to be short. But most people that own businesses in the black community are not black. So that's suffering two things at one time. So how does that work? When we talk about educational policies and opportunities, scrutinizing the influence of political decisions on education policies and the resulting impact on opportunities for black Americans. Okay, what the scrutiny is that as we go to college and these colleges and universities, and we're trying to get an education just like everybody else. What's being scrutinized about it is they come up with ways to shortchange us on the school itself. Either some of the schools are just not up to date, as they would say, or you got some that would, just simply just not go to school, just not go get a higher education. Well, I think the one good thing about two administrations ago, three administrations ago, which was the Obama administration, I think, is when they passed the bill for going to the community college for free. That was a really good bill. It helped out a whole lot. But if you're going to get more, you're gonna have to do a whole lot more to make things work. And so to cap this, we got a socio-economical issue, which means black people don't have sufficient jobs. They don't have enough income in order to survive. They want to go to school for education, but can't afford the education. And when they get the education and have to pay back the student loans are actually far exceeding what can be done. You can't tell me that this is one of those things that uh, that we have to continuously to live with this for the rest of our lives, because that's definitely not fair. We can't even pass down to our generations that's behind us what's the next thing to do, and we can't do that because everything has already been established and put to the forefront as to how things are going to work. We've got to change that. We've got to change that. You know, a lot of us don't have to go to school because we don't like school. No, you don't have to do that. You know, but I think the positive things that need to get done are more than where they should be right now. And I'm just thinking that, you know, what we can do is we can go back to, just community in general, the way it used to be, and see how we can make things work. Because I can guarantee you, if there are people in the community that are helping each other, we wouldn't have the problems that we're having right now. And people are so afraid because, you know, you got so many things that's just out there, and that includes violence. And the violence that I'm speaking of is the killing. And the thing is that you know, black people aren't even being killed that much by black people. It's the executing squad on the street, the police department. They're the ones that's killing black men like it's at a rate of that you just would never imagine. Every time, traffic stop, shot and kill. Traffic stop, shot and kill. But criminal justice and policing, you know, it started out with the war on drugs and mass incarceration, delving into the controversial war on drugs and its connection to the alarming rates of mass incarceration within the black community. Now, black people don't have no drugs. They didn't make the drugs. The drugs were being flown in for somebody else, for those folk that had the money to do that. What they did was they just stuffed all the drugs in the black community. You know, there's some of those up there on Capitol Hill right now that's involved in that. But they stuffed all of this in the black community and then say black people are drug dealers and killers. I just don't understand that part. But they come to black houses, they raid, they beat, they shoot, they arrest, they kill. It's just horrible. Now we're going to talk about some healthcare disparities. When you talk about healthcare disparities, we're talking about analyzing the impact of political decisions on access to healthcare and the persistent healthcare disparities faced by the Black communities. Now, it's a fact that it's a long time coming that most Black people didn't have insurance, health insurance, that is, until they passed the Affordable Health Care Act. When they passed the Affordable Health Care Act, it basically helped to ensure that everybody would have some form of health care. Everybody would be able to go to the doctor. Everybody would be able to get themselves taken care of, and everybody would be able to just live their lives as best as possible. But in that whole entire process, what wound up happening is that when everybody was able to get and afford health care, Republicans had a problem with that. They're still talking about stopping the Affordable Health Care Act, but it just has not happened yet. So they've gone to breaking down parts in order to make it less effective for all the underserved communities. I want you to sometimes just sit back and I want you to think about that. Why would somebody do something like that? The mental health stigma. Exploring the stigma surrounding mental health and the Black community and the influence of political discourse on addressing this crucial issue. It's a known fact that African Americans, especially African American men, are suffering a serious effect and impact on this policing and killing that is causing an enormous amount of mental unhealthiness. Um, you look and Black men are suffering from just depression like you would not believe. The depression. Why the depression? The depression is that either you're afraid to walk from your house to the store or you're afraid to just walk down the street of where you live to a friend's house because you don't know if you're going to be stopped by a cop and the cop is going to shoot and kill you. So I'm just trying to understand, why do you think we have that? Why do people think that that's not a real issue when it really is? It's a problem. It's a real problem. And it's something that we have to deal with. But I tell you, my recommendations to all of this is that when it comes down to, um, the health, the education, when it comes down to the mental health, when it comes down to the economics, when it comes down to the political system, I say write in the right things that are supposed to be written in, such as, um, you know, write the crime bill that needs to be written, the hate law bill when it comes to African Americans. Write that bill. You're refusing to write that bill when actually and African Americans are being killed every day by cops. You wrote one for the Asians. They wrote an Asian bill for a crime bill, a hate bill. They did one for people that were Jewish. Why can't you write a crime bill, a hate bill, a crime hate bill for Black people and include those things that's supposed to be included, which is this about the police? Um, we don't need to have this kind of mental stress because you cannot live your life like that. When it comes down to it, if you got to live your life like that, you are not going to have a healthy life because you have to go to sleep every day, well, every night, and when you wake up, you don't know what's going to happen, and it's like you have to put yourself on um, a like you going to war. You got to get into battle gear just to live your life every day. That's not a good thing. That's not a good sign. But you got folks that feel like they have got control of so many different people and so many different things, and it's not right. It's not right. Those of you that are listening to me, and you know that this pertains to you, when you know that somebody, uh, you know, has lived their life on the edge because they've been pushed so much that, it's like it's dysfunctional, that's a problem. When you talk about political empowerment, we talk about voter suppression and activism. Investigating instances of voter suppression and the rise of activism within the black community as a response to political challenges. That is true. You have groups like Black Lives Matter that popped up, and they've Republicans found ways to actually, dismantle this group because they didn't like the idea of, of this form of black activism that had so many people a part of the movement. I say, let's go Black Lives Matter. You have those that that don't like other groups that are forming because it's like it's a problem when black people gather, we're together, we're forming our own organizations, and we're doing the things that's legally right. There's always a way from a bill that's been written that breaks up the group. Why? Come on, Democrats, tell us why. Democrats, tell us why you got all of this love, as you say, for the black community, but you ain't done nothing to actually help the black community. I'm not mentioning the Republican Party in this case because the Republican Party ain't never going to do anything but for the rich. They're never going to do anything but for the rich. So I know to them, I definitely don't matter. They definitely wouldn't get my vote. And if it was for me, if it was up to me, I would make sure that no person that's got any sensibility in knowing that he or she has whatever is beneficial to him or her would go and vote for that party because that's voting against your interests. That's crazy. I'm still trying to understand those that actually are voting for them today. I want to know, why are you voting Republican? Please tell me. Write in a comment. Tell me why you are voting for a Republican. A Republican is doing nothing for you or your community in these last 25, 30 years. Nothing. Actually, it's longer than that. It's actually almost 50 years. They have done nothing for the black community, but yet and still you want to run and you want to vote for the Republican Party. I want to know why you're voting against your interests. These are the things that make them happy because they feel like, okay, well, you voting for me? Good. That means that you like being enslaved and you love it when I repress you. So I will keep repressing you more and more and more. Black people, wake up and just stop it. Just stop it. Let's be supportive of our communities. Our communities need us. That's the purpose of how groups like Black Lives Matter made its impact. And it made its impact because Black lives do matter. The counter to that, all lives matter. Okay, all lives do matter. But that's after Black Lives Matter. Because Black lives are first. That's first. There ain't no other culture that suffered more than our culture. There is no other culture that suffered more than ours. This is a fact. And yet still, we still have some people that are trying to tear our communities down more and more and more. And they can't even answer the question. They won't answer the question. They don't like being confronted about it. They just do it. But they're doing it because they're being paid to do it. Plain and simple. They're being paid to do it. I suggest that each and every last one of us get off our laurels, start researching, and thinking about 2024. First agenda should be to remember Donald Trump should not be in the White House. Do not vote for Donald Trump. I'm saying this. Do not vote for Donald Trump. He don't deserve your vote. He don't. Because there's nothing he's going to do that's going to make your life easy or make it better. Do not vote for Donald Trump. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you feel like you got to hold your breath, vote for Joe Biden. Put Joe Biden back in the White House. Do not put Donald Trump in the White House. He is doing nothing for our community. He's doing nothing, especially for black men. But you have some of these celebrity types and some of these high-end athletes that are lending their votes to Donald Trump. And I say to each and every last one of you that's black, you need to look at that and you should be asking yourself, why are you supporting those individuals as well? Because those individuals, they don't mean you no good. They want to sit there. They want to have everything in the world to complain about, but have done nothing to build a community. They want to sit there and they want to tell you and dictate that you should actually go and support them, but they're doing nothing to support you. I mean, I'm not going to call them out by name, but I am going to tell you there are an enormous amount of the top tier athletes that look just like me and you that are Republicans and support Donald Trump. They feel like because they got money that they're going to be able to get by. They're not going to have issues like you and I. But we can change that too. Because just like you don't vote or support Donald Trump, you don't vote or support them as well. Because once you hit them in the pocket, then they realize they've done something wrong. But you need to hold them accountable like you hold everybody else accountable. That's the number one factor. And see, representation does matter because let me tell you this. Highlighting this, let me just go on this. Highlighting the significance of political representation and how it can empower the black community to advocate for their rights effectively. That means that we vet our own. We vet our own candidates. Not them people that's sitting there that we've sent there to the Congress that's been there for the last 45, 50 years. Congressional Black Caucus that's done nothing for black people. They can tell you not one thing that they've done for us. Now what they're all doing, they're running for the hills and they're trying to hide. They're trying to hide because they say name recognition is what got them there and they are just so good at what they do. They are so full of crap. They're full of crap. Do not put these people back in office because I'm telling you, there are people that look just like me and you that are just as much harm to our communities as them other people because they're actually working for those other folk. And as I mentioned, the Congressional Black Caucus, they're doing just what those other politicians are doing to the black community. They just want that money. That's all they're doing. They have not advocated not one time to reinstate that voting rights bill when they know that that bill is very important. Not one time. Don't care how they say certain people can lead the caucus as good as they have, or they lead that side so much better. They have a count for every vote. They can do this or they can do that. Then one time have you said we're that this bill is coming to celebrate or to try to start a revolution of making things right in the black community? That's never happened. And at this point, it never will. Unless we can vet our own candidates that we want to send to Washington, D.C., this is never going to happen. Some of you out there that's even listening, run for office. Run for office. Because I can guarantee you, you running for office and you getting the right backing, definitely make it all about community organizing. Make it grounds roots. Build in the community and get your support that way. Do not look at these folks and let me put this money into your campaign. So they put that money in your campaign, that means that they want to buy you. And right now, black folk are being bought like you would not believe. Just being bought. So in conclusion, this podcast has aimed to shed light on the indicate. In conclusion, this podcast has aimed to shed light on the intricate relationship between the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, and the black community. The effects of politics on various aspects of life, from economics to healthcare and criminal justice, underscore the need for informed and engaged citizenship. We are citizens of this country. We make more than enough percentage-wise in this country of an impact and a difference. When it comes to economics, economics means that for us, our communities, is that we're spending our money with other folk. We're the highest consumers in this land, in this nation. But when it comes to supporting our own communities and spending our dollars in our communities, that's not happening. Let's go back to the communities and let's spend these dollars the way we're supposed to, and let's build these businesses. Establish those relationships like they used to. Build those businesses in your community. If you keep that money in your community, then I can guarantee you your community is going to be that much better. Businesses that want to start in your community, help those businesses get off the ground. Stop running 30 miles outside your community and spending your dollar because you say, oh, this is high end and this is that much better. No, it's not. It's just higher. And they raise the prices like that because they know black folk are going to consume. Stop consuming your money in the wrong place. Please. Think about home ownership. Think about leaving a legacy, some generational wealth to those that's coming behind you. If you have to own more than one property, if you can, do that. But do it in your community. Build your community. Help businesses run around and move in and into your community. Those that you know are there to strictly help your community. You know, you don't have to be looking for places like a Home Depot, a Lowe's, or an Ace. It could be your community person is starting the same kind of shop and wants to do it in your community, but don't know if they're going to have the backing. Back those kind of businesses, please. Seriously, that really needs to be done. And like I said, we think about economics. I mean, let's not always be the highest consumers. Start conserving and saving your money, because that rainy day may come sooner than you think. You never know. But as long as you can save that money, you can live your life the way you want to, all is well. But believe me, all is well does not mean spending your money at a place where people don't love you. They don't care for you. They just want your dollar, and they will still do whatever's necessary to kick you aside. This thing with policing. Let's learn to police our own communities. And if we need to get them involved, then we will get them involved. Because if the police comes into your community, 9 times out of 10, they're coming and they've already decided, especially if they see somebody black, that's the criminal. You know I'm not lying about that. That's a fact. You're the criminal and you haven't done anything. Most people don't even have records, but they figure that you haven't done this, you've done something. So I need your ID because I need to go and see what you done. Reach out to your neighbor. Go knock on the door. Say hello. Have a cup of coffee with them. Just chat with them. Establish that relationship. Establish that bond. And just keep that going throughout your community. And as you build your community, before you know it, you guys have the largest network that you never thought you would have. But you got a network that will be able to keep the community safe. Everybody knows everybody. And you will constantly do those things to just grow what's necessary. I would love to have a chat with each and every individual that's actually following this podcast, and it's not just this show, but all the shows. I really would love to speak with each and every individual. We can sit down, we can chat, we can talk about anything. We can talk about things that you want to talk about. Tell me what you want to talk about. I mean, leave me some comments. If you want to go to the YouTube channel, America in Black and White, please follow. Get the notifications. But also write your comments in there. Let me know what I can do to bring you more into this world as to what I'm doing with this show and the ideas of what the show is about. And we can talk about those things that you want to talk about. Just tell me what it is that you want to know. If you got show ideas, please just leave it in the comments there on the YouTube channel. Leave it in the comment section. Leave your contact information and we can actually chat about it and we can make it happen. There's nothing we can't make happen. I'm saying this to you all because it says in the title, America in Black and White, which is exactly what this show is about. It's all about the truth. There's no embellishing, no any of that. This is all facts. So I'm saying to you, please just allow myself and you and those around you, those around me, those that are watching where this can spread to them as well. Let's get everybody on board. I want everybody on board when it comes to this because it takes all of us to make this work. Not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 people. It takes all of us to make this happen. We're all inclusive and we are all valuable. Everybody's an MVP. And I want you all to know this and just let it be known that when it comes down to it, yes, sir, we got this. We got this. We're going to make these changes going into 2024. 2024 is a whole new year and a whole new ball game. We're swinging for the fences. We're trying to win. We're going to win. And again, as I say, go to the YouTube channel, America in Black and White. Drop your comments. Let me know how you feel. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you want to talk about. Let me know what you are hearing. And we can address all of that and we can make things better for our communities. So at this point, I want to say thank you all for listening. I appreciate you for giving me your time. And I promise that if you leave me those comments, I'm definitely going to get back to you and we're going to, take your suggestions as to what's best for the show. Have a good evening and thank you all.